President Muhammadu Buhari performs Lesser Hajj, praise for Nigeria. And federal government seeks financial assistance from Islamic Development Bank. Good afternoon and welcome to News Panorama on Enugu Network Center. I am Chiegono Aro. President Muhammadu Buhari has performed Umrah, otherwise known as Lesser Hajj, an important religious activity of immense value in Islam. State House correspondent Adamu Sambo reports that prayers for Nigeria took center stage.
The most sacred site of the Muslim world, a place where Umrah or the Lesser Hajj is performed. President Muhammadu Buhari took time off his busy schedule in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia to undertake this act of great significance for the sake of Allah. Joined by the governors of Zamfara, Oshun, Ogun, Borno and Katsina states, 4 traditional rulers, including the Emir of Kano and Oba of Lagos, as well as some ulamas, the president, in line with the teachings of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, performed tawaf, meaning the circumambulation of the Kaaba, as well as sa'i, that is going between the 2 mountains of Safa and Marwa. Like Hajj, the act of Umrah is amongst the best deeds Muslims can perform when pleasing Allah. In fact, it is an act in which he considers the performer to be answering his call, and therefore, apart from the bountiful rewards therefrom and forgiveness of committed sins, all the requests made here are believed to be answered. And this was the great opportunity President Muhammadu Buhari and his delegation utilized to offer prayers for Nigeria.
It's actually his own personal spiritual journey and an opportunity for him to pray for the country and pray for peace and for progress.
We know so many Muslims are praying for the nation, but his own prayer as a leader is most recognized by Almighty Allah and accepted.
The president has thrown everything into the job. He is doing the most that any human being can do.
In Nigeria.
Of the Islamic Development Bank, Dr. Ahmed Mohammed, when he met with him. The president, at another meeting with the Secretary General of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, IOC, said government will appreciate the support to rehabilitate parts of the country affected by insurgency.
Back home in Nigeria, Africa should begin to look inward for car resources to propel her development and her dependent foreign partners. Vice President Yemi Osinbajo gave the advice while declaring open the Habitat 3 Africa Regional Meeting in Abuja. State House correspondent Jido Onifade has the details.
The African Regional Meeting is said to be coming at a very crucial time for the history of urbanization worldwide, and especially for Africa. This is so, as stated by organizers, the first time in the history of development, urbanization is considered as a tool for development and an engine room for growth and prosperity, as against being seen as a challenge in the past. To Vice President Yemi Osinbajo, whose belief and advocate has always been for people to see challenge as opportunity, sees this as another way of opening up the grassroots to development, to close the disparity between the rich and the poor, and through the development of infrastructure, create a safe environment for the people.
Africa must change the story of its cities and urban settlements from one of chaos, informality, and squalor into a positive one of planning, tranquility, and environmental sustainability. In doing so, we can glean lessons from other parts of the world while remaining fully conscious of Africa's commonalities and peculiarities, and using them to propel our urban agenda.
Africa has unique challenges when it comes to the issue of the environment and even economy. So also is the unique opportunity which speakers that includes the Minister of Power, Works and Housing, Babatunde Fashola, urged urban developers and policymakers to explore.
Well, it is another call here on African countries to collaborate with the rest of the world to ensure that practical and pragmatic effect are given to provisions in their constitutions regarding housing and urban development. From the International Conference Center here in Abuja, Jide Onif.
Meanwhile, delegates to the Habitat 3 Africa regional meeting have called for the articulation of a common stand from the continent that will ensure renewed commitment to sustainable urban development. Mohammed Hamza Sheikh has the details of presentations from member countries.
Settlement started in 1976 when the United Nations General Assembly convened the Habitat 1 conference in Vancouver. 20 years later, the second Habitat conference was held in Istanbul, focusing on sustainable cities and adequate shelter for all. Unfortunately for the African continent, it was neither represented at the first two conferences nor its challenges of human settlement taken into account. As the world prepares for the third Habitat conference later this year, Nigeria is leading other African countries in articulating a strong declaration to the conference.
We can't provide solutions to problems we do not solve.
Legislators, the resolutions of the interactive session recommended many adjustments in the budget which will add value to the estimate. Receiving the report of the Chairman, Senate Committee on Civil Society and Diaspora, Senator Rose Oko, the lawmakers said most of the recommendations have been overtaken by events. The organizations will be actively involved in budgeting process in the future.
In order to strengthen and build a sustainable partnership with civil society organizations, budget hearings with CSOs should be done on an annual basis.
We are moving more towards a more transparent and openness. And also, as we observe, the budget is not only just for us in Parliament, it also gives an opportunity for the general public. And that is why it's important on the executive part that these budgets come early enough.
The lawmakers also received briefings from the Senate Committee on Ethics and Public Petitions on the alleged diversion of more than 1 trillion naira by the former EFCC chairman, Ibrahim Lamorde. The recommendation of the committee for the Senate to issue warrant of arrest on the former EFCC boss was thrown back to the committee.
So what is required here is for the committee to issue a warrant of arrest, and then the Senate President will direct the police to effect the arrest. It is not the business of the Senate sitting in plenary to do so, otherwise we'll be offending this part of the Constitution.
Even does not need to come to the plenary. It should be left at the level of the rules and business and in accordance to Section 89 of the Constitution.
Two bills on the amendment of the Deep Offshore and Inlet Basin Sharing Contract and that for the establishment of Nigeria Agricultural Quarantine are matters connected with by Senators Theodore Oji and Sonny Oboji passed second reading. From the National Assembly, Abdullahi Garba Bernokudu, NTA News.
The Enugu State Commissioner of Police, Modibo Ekechukwu, has reiterated his command's commitment towards the sustenance of the existing peace and order in the state. He stated this when he led some of his officers on a courtesy visit to the State Chief Judge, Justice Innocent Umezurike. Ifoma Nduokoli was there and now reports.
For both the police and the judiciary to brainstorm on the best way to achieve a crime-free society. Mr. Ekechukwu commended the Enugu State Chief Judge, Justice Innocent Umezurike, for his efforts in ensuring speedy dispensation of justice at all times, and assured the Chief Judge that the police is ever ready to work with the judiciary in order to effect the desired changes.
And make a solemn undertaking that even where there are issues, we know how to go around them in-house. And of course, issues touching the judiciary and the police are always timeless. We don't need to wait for forum like this before raising them.
The Chief Judge, Justice Umezurike, described the police and the judiciary as reliable agencies in the maintenance of law and order in the country, and thus should work together, especially in enforcing judgments. He urged the Commissioner to map out some programs aimed at making the officers and men of the police force effective.
The two agencies of government, the police force and the Nigerian judiciary, as a matter of necessity, must have to work in complementarity.
Issues such as allocation of orderlies to the judges, security of the judges, among other issues, were raised at the meeting, which was attended by top officers of the Enugu State Police Command, as well as judges of the State High Courts. The president of the Customary Court of Appeal, Justice George Nnamani, also attended the meeting. In Enugu, Ifeoma Ndu Okolie, NTA News.
The Enugu State government has concluded plans to host an international economic summit in the state to boost its economic potentials by wooing local and foreign investors to key into the 10 sectors outlined to make the coming summit a success. Shimobi Watanaji was there and now reports.
Scheduled to take place in the state between 12th and 14th of April 2016 has been tagged Oganiru, meaning progress, and is geared towards empowering small and medium enterprises as well as providing a conducive business environment in the state.
So the idea is to find people who are focused in agriculture and support them where we can, or give them the opportunity to make appropriate investments with the right land assets and develop the agricultural sector for the state.
The Director General of the Economic Summit, Mr. Ikechi Chioke, further enumerated 10 sectors to be covered by the summit to include solid minerals and mining, power generation and distribution, agriculture and agri-processing, and tertiary education, among others.
To see how we can attract tourism as a business to come back to the state. We are all aware that some of these hotels have seen much better days than is the present today.
The State Commissioner for Commerce and Industry, while explaining the committee's efforts in ensuring a successful outing, said the committee will attract foreign investors as an offshoot of the investment tour of Dublin, Ireland, by the governor earlier in the year.
What we are trying to do in this summit is to bring in both investors and bring in those companies that enable investors, and then what enable the small and medium scale.
A member of the committee and director of the Institute of Development Studies, University of Nigeria, Nsukka, Professor Osita Obu, charged journalists in the state to be agents of propagating this possibility of doing business successfully in the state. In Enugu, Shimobi Walter Naji, NTA News.
The place of a veterinary doctor in an animal husbandry cannot be overemphasized, especially with recurrent diseases that affect poultry and fish farming in recent times. Here's a report from our correspondent. Animal husbandry entails safekeeping and health management of farm animals. These farm animals are reared for consumption or for commercial purposes. They provide meat, milk, and eggs. The caregivers are properly trained to do this job. They are veterinary doctors who are engaged by poultry, fishery, and piggery farmers. Some who rear security dogs or even commercial cows and goats seek the assistance and services of veterinary doctors.
At this stage, a lot of vaccination have been given to these birds. If you look at them physically, they have undergone surgery. What does it mean? They have deplete them. It's a simple minor surgery so that they will not be taking on one another.
Some poultry farmers who engage the services of experts told NTA News that they pay veterinary doctors to give care and medication to their farm animals almost on a monthly basis.
There are many challenges, but it's mostly in disease outbreak. Yes, because its mortality is usually high once it enters the farm. So mostly the best way is to prevent it.
Normally, we don't allow people to touch our beds anyhow. If you come into the farm, you're supposed to wash your hands and feet before entering the pen with a disinfectant. Then since the bird flu, we do spray virucidal drugs.
Experts say animal husbandry requires daily attention if you want the best out of it. Extra care is needed during disease outbreaks like bird flu and other diseases that affect farm animals. Caregiving is painstaking though, but economically, animal husbandry adds to national growth. Railway travelers in Nigeria, especially in the eastern part of the country, can now enjoy their once traveling choice following the return of intracity train service, which was neglected for years. Chinyere Okoye reports that the service now covers Port Harcourt, Aba, Enugu, Kafancha, Kaduna, Zaria, with Kano as the final destination.
That passenger train from Port Harcourt leaving Enugu for Kano with over 400 passengers on board. This intercity train service commenced 12 years after the federal government launched a revitalization program of the railway. The train leaves Port Harcourt to Kano every Tuesday on a rail distance of 1,139 kilometers in 37 hours. Some passengers appealed for continuity and regular services to ensure viable economic exchange between the south and northern parts of Nigeria, especially farmers that move produce to states along the rail lines.
Due to entering motor with train they're very nice. And the person will bring this train back to Nigeria, let God bless that person times 100.
Very, very happy because since we are this small boy, when I finished my primary school, I enter from my Kano to Zaria, but now when I hear, say the train, they move, I like to enter near my wife.
Petty traders are also using the opportunity to make brisk business. The Railway District Manager East said government is committed to ensuring that train services are accessed everywhere in the country, but the corporation is currently faced with problems of ecology and vandalism of rail tracks.
There are steady progress being made in the rehabilitation of railway network throughout the whole country. And once this rehabilitation is completed, we can experience higher service delivery.
During the British colonial era, train services were regular and one of the best means of transportation in the country, but lacked maintenance of basic facilities, which led to a huge setback in that sector, forcing business owners to rely solely on the use of trucks and other means for movement of goods and services.
Though faced with many challenges, what matters to Nigerians is for the sector to deliver on its mandate, which is to provide efficient train services to Nigerians. From the Nigerian Railway Corporation, Enugu, Chinyere Okoye, NTN News. Enugu residents have been urged to imbibe maintenance culture and avoid the misuse of government infrastructure and other public utilities. Amaka Owo in this report takes a look at some governmental structures that are mismanaged within the Enugu metropolis.
Cities suffer neglect and are dilapidated as they are often left unkept, abandoned and decayed. A typical example of poor maintenance attitude by Enugu residents is seen at the Nnamdi Azikiwe National Stadium, where part of the structure is defaced with posters. While in developed countries of the world, such structures are given the adequate attention they deserve.
Nigeria do not have any maintenance culture at all. We discovered today that the same purpose for which the National Stadium was raised is nothing to write on about anymore.
Our next part, Mr. Anthony Ozodinobi said that policy implementation, the right institutional framework, and a dedicated budget by government will enable it to sustain its infrastructure.
It's not enough to have policy, but if you don't have dedicated budget for which those kind of maintenance will be carried out, it will also be paperwork. We can save a whole amount of over 20% of savings if we maintain our systems.
The Enugu State Commissioner for Works and Infrastructure, Dr. Patrick Ibenwa, urged the people to assist in sustaining government's infrastructure so that they last their lifespan.
Infrastructure has a design lifespan, and if it is properly maintained, it is the probability of it living its lifespan is there and even beyond.
Individuals, government and other stakeholders have been enjoined to preserve all infrastructures through proactive measures to ensure sustainability, longevity, and beautification of the environment. In Enugu, Amaka Owo, NTN News.
On that note, we wrap up News Panorama from Enugu Network Center. We now join our mainstreaming programs on the network belt. I am Chiegono Aro. Thank you for being there. Good afternoon.